Greetings, shapes, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You can think of us as the peaches and cream of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG podcast network. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the only person sweeter than a Georgia peach, Josh. How are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm uncomfortable now, but before I was just fine.
I paid you a compliment. Why are you uncomfortable?
I don't know if I've ever been called sweeter than a Georgia peach, and all that makes me think of is like serial killer movies.
What?
Like Silence of the Lambs.
I don't know if there's a reference to Georgia peaches in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where the Silence of the Lamb peach crossover
What's the
comes
movie where they say I could eat a peach for days?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
But it's not like super creepy. I
Okay.
think it's a movie like that. So, well, a listener will let us know, I'm sure.
Yes. I will strike that from future things to call you. I will no longer call you sweeter than a Georgia peach.
Okay,
but hey, with all this talk of Georgia, you may have heard that mysterious third voice, and we would be doing a disservice to the entire state if we did not have one of their own on the podcast. And with that, I welcome Nintendo enthusiast and proud papa of PSVG, Donnie Reese. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Greetings, Koopalings. Happy to make my way over here. Josh, the movie you're looking for is Face Off. Not even closely remoted at all related to Silence of the Lambs. Not even close.
Good call. Yeah, you're right.
So that was a good Face Off. Was a solid movie, right?
Face Off is better than Speed.
That bar is pretty low at this point. I feel like based off all the movies we have thrown into that basket that are better than Speed.
Hashtag Better Than Speed. Shout out to Better Than Speed on Twitter.
Yeah, who would have thought there was a Better Than Speed podcast when we started that joke? So anyway, hey, this is not a movie podcast or a podcast about speed, but apparently that does exist. This is a gaming podcast. So thanks so much for joining us this week. As always, send any feedback, questions, or suggested topics to @BoardWithVG on Twitter. Also check out all the awesome stuff Josh posts over on the Instagram. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/boardwithvg. And still waiting for that first fan fiction via email, boardwithvg@gmail.com. And as always, use that hashtag boardwithvg so that we can follow all the wonderful things you're doing on the social medias. We're really excited to have Donnie here, but we're going to run through a couple of the usual things first. So Josh, why don't you talk a little bit about what you've been playing on your tabletop?
That sounds good. I want to preface my games by telling you we cleaned off our front porch on Saturday.
So you played your games on your front porch?
We played our games on the front porch. It's been a mess for years. We finally got it cleaned up, thrown in a dumpster, all that kind of stuff. So we set up our table out on the front porch. The house, I would say like 10, 12 years ago, the house started settling not super great, and they replaced our first floor porch, and ours is the second floor. So we're sitting out, and I put my table down, and we set up our first game, and you roll a die, and it rolls right down the other side of the table. So it is extremely slanted and impossible to play games on.
So is it better or worse than playing them on your floor?
Well, on a nice spring summer day, it's better, but it just can't be a die game. No dice allowed. It has to be something that will not affect it at all, because it was interesting. So we played two games for the first time. Machi Koro, which I think is shocking probably to people who know me, and shocking to me that I haven't played it before.
I'm surprised.
I've had it for a while, but we just never got to playing it. And Onitama, which is a game that I really wanted to play. So I'll talk about Machi Koro. It's pretty easy to learn game. And I shouldn't say it's pretty easy. It's easy to learn and probably hard to master. And we only played it 2 people, so I can imagine it being chaotic with 4, the way that the game runs. But a while back, I bought a playmat when I bought one of the expansions from, I think, a miniature market sale. And essentially what Machikoro is like a town building game, so to speak. You have these cards in your hand that each player have. You start with the same cards. And your goal is to build your 4 structures before the other players. And each of these structures has different abilities. So one of them is if you do, I think it's a train station. If you build the train station first, you get to roll 2 die instead of 1. And the reason why you're rolling die is you have a board set up and it ranges from 1 to 13, I want to say. And I could be wrong, but essentially each number on a die represents a building in a city. And each city gives you a power while you're playing. So if you roll a 1, that's a wheat field. And if you have a wheat field, the way it works is every time a 1 is rolled, you gain a coin. So that's if you roll a 1 or your opponent rolls a 1. And these are stackable cards, so you can buy multiple wheat fields. So every time a 1 is rolled, you can get a multiple of that. That's a blue card. So the green cards, if you roll the number on the green card, you have to roll it on your turn to get the benefit of that card. So whatever the building might be, it would say 2. If you roll a 2 on your turn only, you gain 1, 2, 3 coins, whatever the coin count is. There are red buildings, which basically punish your opponent if they roll that die. So the cafe is number 3, and if my wife had a cafe and I roll a number 3, I have to pay her a coin.
Just call them what they are. They're the jerk buildings. You take them if you're a jerk.
Well, you take them to win, yes.
So you took them. I see how this goes. Continue
sometimes
on.
You have to be a jerk to win. You also have purple buildings, which are 6s, and those also are similar to the reds, where they usually cause your opponent to give you money or to lose a building or something like that. The 4 buildings you have, they cost coins to build, and you can build them in any order. So I think they go 6 coins, 10 coins, 16 coins, and 22 coins. I could be wrong, but it's right around that. And the game ends once someone builds all 4 of their buildings. It was fun. It was quick. If you know Flip City, it's very similar to Flip City. But instead of flipping cards, you're rolling the die for them. I think it would be really good for families, like a nice introductory game. And there's a bunch of expansions. I actually just picked one up at Target on clearance for $8. The Target exclusive, Big City Lights or something like that.
Bright Lights, Big City.
Yes. And then I also have 2 other expansions that will add into the game. The base box does have a lot of space to add cards to, so I think I can put them all into one box, which is nice to see in a board game. And Onitama I'll talk about real quick. It's an abstract, similar. It's very much like chess in a way. If you look at the pictures on Instagram, you'll see. But what I thought it was really cool, and I can't wait to play it again. It's 2-player game only. You take a blue or a red. Someone represents blue, someone represents red. You have your emperor, which we'll call like the king, and then you have pawns. You have 4 pawns that line up next to him. When you open the game, there's a deck of cards. You shuffle the cards and you give 2 cards random to each player, and they are literally your move cards. They're named after an animal from like martial arts culture, and they have certain moves that you can only take on the card, and they're laid out on a grid, just like the board is. And basically, you're overtaking your opponent's pieces, or you're trying to get your emperor to the throne on the other end of the board. And after each player has 2 cards, you draw 1 card for the first player, and that goes to signify they're first. And say I have the dragon and the ox. Those are two different types of moves. If I play the dragon, after I play it, I turn it 180 degrees and I slide it to the other end of the board, and it will sit and wait for my opponent to take a move, and then they'll take that card after they play their card. So you're always getting different moves on your turn. And we only played with 5 cards. There's probably 20 in the base game. So there's so many different possibilities. In the first game we played, 4 of the cards were very similar, and one, the dragon, was very different, where you would move further away. So whoever had that dragon card was kind of like a game changer, because you have to pay attention to your opponent's card to see how they can move, because a lot of times myself or my wife moved to a place on the board where we were just overtaken because we didn't look at the card our opponent had. I really like it. I can't wait to play it again. Game takes 15 minutes, and it's a $20 game. And the expansion is $13, I think.
So really quick, Bright Lights Big City, I'm
Yes.
pretty certain is not a expansion for Machikoro. I think it is a standalone game.
Oh, uh-oh.
I think I could be wrong, and I was very confused by this the first time I saw it. And I was going to say this when you were saying it before, but you jumped right into Onitama. I believe it is like a best of, where there are cards from the base games and the expansions in it.
Okay.
So it is like
I got it for $8.
Yeah, so it is like its own standalone version of the game.
Okay.
So just be aware. I think that's how that works.
Yeah, I'll check it
But
out.
I will say, if you haven't played Machikoro with the expansions yet, I think the game is far better with the expansions than it is as just the base game.
Cool.
Because I do think there is a very simple strategy for winning the base game. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I think there is one.
Well, I know that you were very proficient in card drafting games, so I might not be on your level of mastering.
But remember, you're rolling a dice here, so you have to go based off of what the dice says. So it's not.
That's true.
You're obviously, there's still definitely engine, and I think that's one of the things that I like about the expansions is it definitely increases the engine building possibilities. So it's not just about kind of piecemealing these things together. Like, there's a distinct strategy you can go for and really try to maximize, hey, I'm going to get more of X card because it syncs really well with Y card, and when that happens, I get Z benefit.
Right.
That happens much more when you have to add the expansions in.
Okay, cool. So that's it for me. I was going to throw it to Donnie, but Donnie's going to cover his board game stuff when we talk later on our topic.
Actually, I'm going to throw you guys a curveball.
Oh, yes.
Curveball, pulling from OT. I actually did play a board game at MomoCon, and I completely forgot about it. It's a game that I actually own. I've been playing it for a while. MomoCon had a really cool little section where they just had board games that you could check out and tons of tables. And like there were tons of families and friends, and people would just come in and out and set up board games. So I don't know if that's common. It was my first con, but it was neat. And my kids immediately saw that they had the Mario Level Up game, which we had bought at GameStop, and we had played that. And we were playing that while we waited for the exhibit floor to open. And that is a pretty neat little game. Have you guys ever played it?
No.
I think it's much simpler than most of the games that I've heard you guys recommend to us before. It's kind of chance, kind of a bluff game. And essentially it's got a really nice board that makes these stairs. There's these 5 levels. And you start the game by placing your characters on different levels. Like everybody gets to place one, and by process of elimination, you fill up the board. And there's like some question blocks, keeping with the Mario theme. And every turn goes around and you get to move one character. And when a character makes it to the top of the ladder, they're crowned as champion, but then everybody has to vote. And you've got yes cards, you've got no cards, you've got no vote cards, like a veto. And then once we finally, by process of elimination, once you finally crown a champion collectively, then you start tallying up the scores. So ultimately, as the loop of the game really is you trying to bluff and hold your own characters back while everybody else runs out of cards, or you blitzkrieg everybody else while everybody's waiting. You try to get up there and stack the deck early, right? So even if they vote no, you put 4 of your 5 characters on the top rung, and you just outscore them. The blocks are fun because they make you swap with other characters, they make you lose a turn, they make you lose a card, they make somebody else vote first. So that type of stuff. So
Nice.
as you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, I did play a board game with my kids, and then it's one they quite enjoy, probably just because of the IP and the way it's set up. It's very Super Mario Land-ish, right? With the grass and the blocks and all that. It looks cool.
Yeah. Very
Does
cool.
it feel like Mario? Like when
Not
you
at
play
all.
it, or it does? Okay.
No, I mean it only because like in Mario games they jump. So I guess you could think like by moving the character up a level and hitting the blocks, it kind of in some sort of 2D plane represents a jump. But I mean, no, it just feels like this game that has Mario characters on it. It could be anything else, I'd imagine.
Okay. Well, it's a bit disappointing, but I'm glad your family likes it. Like that's really the
My
important
kids
thing
love
in the
it.
end. That's the important thing.
My son has it set up on his shelf like a display model. Like he just has the game set up ready to go at all times. And he can just like grab it and we can play it. So
cool.
Very cool. So my game is another actual simple game to explain. So it's a group of simple games this week. And mine is Battleship, which is a 2 to 4 player abstract strategy game published by Blue Orange. And the instruction manual for Battleship is basically like a 3x5 business card that you can open and close. And that's the entire thing. It's 4 little pages of a little 3x5 card. And that is the entire instructions. What the game is you start with every player. You can play it 2 to 4 players. And every player starts with 4 pasture tiles. And there's 4 basically spots on each pasture tile. And you go back and forth putting these pasture tiles out. So every time you are building, so you're always building the board before the game starts. So the more people, the more complex, more diverse board you might get. Then each player has a stack of 16 sheep tokens, and you pick an edge piece to put those tokens on. Then all you do is you go around the table and you must move a pile of your sheep in a straight line until they can't move anymore. So you could move 15, because you always have to leave at least one behind, but you can move 15 sheep one direction. You can move 8 sheep, and then you'd have 2 stacks of 8. But that's literally the entire game. Is you're just moving your stack of sheep in a straight line as far as they can go. So you can never stop in the middle of something. You have to stop when you get to an edge or when you get to another sheep, because you can never jump sheep. And the game ends when nobody can move anymore. Once no one has any legal moves, the game ends and you count how many of your sheep are visible from the top of the board. So literally you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to move my sheep, try to cut off my opponent, and take up as many of the pasture spots as I can until we run out of space or I can no longer make legal moves. And if you plan ahead significantly, you can cut people off. I actually one time played a game of this, and this wasn't this last weekend when I played it, but one time I tried to be really tricky with something, and I actually got blocked right away at the very, very beginning of the game, so I could only get 4 points total. That wasn't a very fun game. But it's a really enjoyable game. It's really easy to teach, and it's really easy to pick up and play. But it is a game that on the surface, very straightforward, very simple to teach. But once you get going, especially since the board is different every time, since you're always building it before the game starts, there's actually a lot of depth to it, and understanding the strategy of, is it good to move 15 of your sheep right off the bat? Is it better to move 8 of them and then kind of take over that half and try to take over the half you're on? How is that all going to work? How does that work with empty spots? Because obviously, since you're building this board, sometimes you might end up with gaps in the board because, you know, people are just kind of laying these tiles they have to touch, but they don't necessarily have to touch every space. So you're going to end up with blank spots and empty spots. And it's actually a really fun little game. It's really inexpensive. The production quality is actually very high. The tokens for your sheep are really good quality. It's really colorful. Again, easy game to recommend if you're looking for a more simple abstract strategy game to get into. Like I said, the instructions are very straightforward, very easy to learn. And I think it's one of those things that, you know, even younger kids, meaning like 7 or 8, could get into this game and understand how this game plays. So I think it's something that could be fit really well with families as well. So if you're looking for something simple and not super expensive, I definitely recommend Battleship.
Nice.
So
like Risk with sheep.
I mean, way less advanced than Risk, but kind of, yes, kind of.
You're pictured taking over territories.
Yeah, it's kind of like an area control, like trying to do that, and yeah, kind of for sure.
Nice.
So with that, we'll move on to what we've been playing on our televisions. Josh, sir, what have you been playing on your television screen?
It's so funny. I was like, I must have played a bunch of games. I don't know that I did. I don't know why. I didn't get back into Detroit. I'm having a tough time. making myself go back to that for whatever reason. So
I was going to ask, why do you think so?
I'm having a tough time with the moral choices in the game. It's for me. I'm a very empathetic person. So when I'm put into a situation that is uncomfortable, that I would never want to be in, and in this game, where you're kind of forced to make a decision that you don't even know it's the right decision to make, depending on how you view it. I was telling Kyle, I had a lot of, I was very stressed out the first time I started playing it. But I appreciate the game because it looks beautiful, and you can just tell from your first like instance of playing how much detail and how much work went into each scenario, each level, because there's so much to do and see. But there's a couple scenes where I just had a tough time with, and I think it kind of ties into like in our Discord where we were chatting with some people about games that are too close to real life. And some people don't like to play those kind of games. They want an escape. Like, I know that this game is androids and it's science fiction, but it has too many parallels for me that are stress inducing, I think.
Gotcha.
While I'm enjoying it, I'm simultaneously not, which is a weird thing for me.
It's interesting. The more I hear about Detroit, the more I think I'm going to love this game. And it's crazy because I haven't given this game a thought at all in the years that we've seen it. I'm just like, nope, didn't like Heavy Rain, ruling it out of my mind. And I think to Seth's dismay, he's constantly like, I'm getting Detroit. I'm like, nope, don't like these games. And then I check out the review cycle. It seems like it's a lot better than, like anything I remember, especially from like a control scheme, at least from what I've seen. I hear Seth talking about it. I hear people on Twitter talking about it. They're starting to say things like Life is Strange. And I'm like, I like Life is Strange. These are games I enjoy. And, hearing you like, these are like real moral. I like games like this. I'm starting to, the FOMO is starting to kick in, as Devin would say. And I'm like, I kind of feel like I need to play this game.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't want to be the person to say yay or nay, but I think if you listen to how Seth is talking about it, like that's probably, and I'm sure Kyle can speak to it a little bit. You probably get better like solid input on pass or play from them. So I jumped into Destiny 2 because I was like, what do I do? So I never finished Osiris. For whatever reason, games came out, so I jumped back in. I finished the first expansion today. I'm kind of feeling it again. I have that it feels comfortable. That whole riding a bike kind of situation, like I'm enjoying it. So I put in a couple hours here and there the past few days, and then last night Kyle and I jumped into the Division. Xbox One X enhanced. We played for 3 or 4 hours last night, I want to say. Stopped at 2 a.m. my time.
Yeah, right in that ballpark.
So, I mean, we had a blast. We had a great time despite a few things. And one of those things, I don't know if we necessarily identified why it's happening or how, but at one point, when you play co-op, you can drop gear you get. So another person, your buddy can pick it up. And I was dropping gear a couple times, and I would drop like, let's say a gun. And then all of a sudden I would go into my inventory and my high level backpack I had equipped was gone. Not only was it gone, it wasn't on the ground. It was just eliminated from the game. So I thought, maybe I didn't have one. And then it happened again with a different equipment, not related to the item I dropped. And then it finally happened to Kyle's end. He lost a gun.
I lost a pistol.
And he didn't even drop anything for me to take. So there's definitely a weird flaw in the game where you're losing equipment. And I told Kyle while we were playing, I said, I don't care right now. It's just green equipment. But if I lose a gold gun or gold equipment, I'm just going to quit. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I think that's it. I played Pokemon Quest for 3 minutes.
Oh, that's it.
But not because I didn't like it, just because it was like midnight and I wanted to show my wife what it looked like. I will play it more because all I really did was pick my starting Pokemon and then do the first series of battles before it jumps into like the start of the game. So it was interesting. You don't for my quick 3-minute intro, it seems very simplistic, but it seems like it would be fun. And for me, a guy who's not into Pokemon, just because it wasn't like I was a little older when Pokemon came out, it wasn't something I got into. It seems fun and interesting. So I don't know that you necessarily have to be a hardcore Pokemon fan to enjoy it. But who knows? That's just the beginning. And I don't know if I'm going to get as in-depth as you might hear in a little bit. But that's it for me. And I believe we go to Donnie next, correct?
Yeah. So let me tell you, I've been playing that Pokemon Quest way more than I ever anticipated or expected when it was announced. In all honesty, I get it. I've been getting it in the Discord for the last couple of days. And I get it. When the game was shown, it was not necessarily a game that anybody expected to want to like. You know, it's not a Pokemon game, like first and foremost, not an RPG. It's a mobile game, and that's like got its own connotations. And they talk about it's free to start, and that's got its own connotations. I like it. It's good. It's not, like I said in Shaq last week, it's not the best game. Like I'm not here to try and tell anybody it's a great game. I'm not gonna I don't want to over sensationalize, but it is addictive. I do feel like that, and I would push back on you a little bit because I think it is addictive because I'm a Pokemon fan. I mean, it is the IP that's driving it. So, for example, I've been combing the dark web trying to find recipes for my favorite Pokemon.
Like so the actual dark web, or
no.
Okay, I'm like,
I got a wish list if
like Twitter feed hits and getting into like wikis and things I've never heard of. I found a Discord just dedicated to Pokemon Quest. That's all it does.
I mean, I was going to say, I know Spice Road sells some interesting things, but I didn't know if they were into selling some Pokemon Quest stuff.
Nice. So, yeah, I've been trying to do that so I can collect my favorite Pokemon so I can then level them up and beat the game. I did buy the stuff. So just forthright. The moment I realized I was really enjoying the game was the moment I was like, I'm happy to, I want to buy the stuff. It was one of those. So it's not microtransactions in the sense like Pokemon Go, where you just keep buying Pokeballs. That's not it. It has like packs that unlock different tiers in the game. So like each pack comes with like a Pokemon, some decorations for your fort, like you may get the ability to carry more Pokemon or more power blocks, or the thing that I think is most worthy is that every day you earn tickets, and you use these tickets to really do anything, really, right? So you use these tickets to buy stuff, to expand turns, to make yourself stronger. And when you start the game, I think you get 50 a day. You totally play this game for free and play it for hours and hours and hours and hours. Probably beat the game without ever sinking $1 into it if you want to. But for me, I want to play it faster. You know, like I see the grind and the loop that it's taking. I'm like, no, I don't want to skip all that. And I also want the decorations, and I also want the Pokemon. So I gave them the $30. I started with the $17 pack. When I saw how much fun I had with $17 pack, I was like, let me give them the other $13 and let's just unlock all of this now and give me everything that I need. And in a lot of ways, I kind of wish they just said it was a $30 Pokemon game. I think maybe that would have changed a lot of people's opinion on at least giving it a try, at least from my Twitter side. There was even a point today that I posted a recipe guide that I found in the Discord. I was trying to share it, and somebody was like, hey, how did you get this Pokemon? And I was like, it's a part of the pack. And he was like, oh, of course you'd have to buy it. It is a video game. Like somebody programmed the game. Like,
yeah.
You shouldn't be so opposed to parting with your money at all. And I think when you give it the free to start label, that's where people like immediately go. It's like, let me see how much I can play of this game without paying them anything.
Yeah. So now that you've spent the money, like, can you spend more money, or is like,
no, I'm done.
$30? That's it.
That's it. I can't do any more. I think, no, hang on. It's a good question. I may have to go double check. I think there might be Like you might have the ability to buy ingredients for recipes individually or like in packs of 10, maybe. But I don't see how anybody would ever do that. Like you'd be uninformed if you did that. Like I'm collecting ingredients by the droves right now. Like it's not hard. So the collect, it's not even I've never been the collect them all Pokemon guy, but I am the collect my favorite Pokemon guy. And that's what's driving me in the game right now, because my favorite Pokemon are some of the more rare ones. So I want to find them, I want to level them up, and I want to beat the game with them. So my entire time I've been playing it so far, I've been playing it with the guys I got from the packs because they're super OP, and then like the ones that come through every now and again. And then once I discovered this whole metagame, I've literally started all over again. Now I'm just combing through runs so I can get extra ingredients, so I can make the recipe, so I can get the Pokemon. And when I get the Pokemon, I go all the way back so I can level them back up to where I am. So it's just kind of like this constant loop. The cool thing about the thing that not cool, I don't know. I think some people would actually even hate me saying this. So when you make a recipe, so you don't catch Pokemon. What you do is you battle, you get to go do all your attacks and to have fun. And then you gather these ingredients, mushrooms and things like that. You come back, you make a recipe. That recipe attracts a Pokemon to your camp, and then you get to use that Pokemon. That's how you catch Pokemon. Now, you have to wait turns, and that's like where the ticket comes in. You have to, like, each recipe, depending on how good it is, like, you have to wait. There's like a amount of turns you have to wait before that recipe is done. It may be 2 turns, 5 turns. The most I've seen is 6. The game actually does have an autoplay feature. So when you set up your team and your run, so you pick your Pokemon, and there's actually a strategy. Every level you go to, if you don't realize, there's a wheel that tell you the Pokemon you'll encounter. And if you choose their weaknesses and whatnot, you'll actually gain a bonus level. Because if you go in there and your level is even tied with the level that you're there, I pretty much say you probably have a really good chance at losing, because the boss in every level is pretty tough. So you pick and match your team, and you can go in there and you can just turn on play, and it'll automatically auto attack. So it is one of those things that I'm not here trying to tell you that it's a great video game. I am here to say, or what I've been trying to trumpet it as, and you guys know this about me, it's a perfect game to play while I'm watching a movie, while I'm watching a TV show. Today I was blogging, I was doing a blog for MomoCon, and I just had it running next to me. I'd take a minute, stop, set up a team, do a run, go back to writing, it'd be done. I'd pick it back up and I'd do it again. And I just kept doing it. And I just kept doing that. Now I've got like 50 Pokemon. I've got both my Cubones. One is about to become Marowak. I've got EVs. Like I've got all this stuff baking, and I'm almost back to where I was in terms of like just beating the game, except now I'm going to be able to beat the game with my favorite team. And I think that's going to make it all that much more rewarding. The extra benefit of buying the packs is that they, anything that you buy is like set to your console. So what that means is my son and daughter, who also like the game, who are also playing the game, we don't have to buy it for them too.
Nice.
They get everything that I bought. So it's like 3 of us got everything for $30, which makes us feel even better, especially my son. You guys know he's a Pokemon fan.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, I'm sure when my Switch profile updates, people are going to hate to hear this. I guarantee you I'm over 10 or 15 hours in this game. Me alone. And I guarantee my son is probably right there with me.
There's
probably logged 10, 25 hours into Pokemon Quest this week.
If I could tell you how much I play my Marvel game on my phone, it would be embarrassing. or the Disney game that's on the Disney Magic Kingdom game. Like
a lot of the gameplay reminds me, like the loop reminds me of Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. The difference being, instead of picking up fruit, you're battling Pokemon, and instead of collecting villagers, you're collecting Pokemon. And both of those sound better.
Yeah, way better.
To a Pokemon fan, Theo, battling Pokemon is better than picking up fruit, and collecting Pokemon is better than collecting villagers. Like, so to me, it's kind of, I could see if I was really into Animal Crossing, you know, like Caroline, Chelsea, or even Kevin, I could see how they got in more into that than me. But this is more themed for me. So anyway, outside of the Pokemon Quest, I did settle in last night with my PlayStation 4 a little bit. Because I got the Silver Case HD Suda 51 game, and I went back and started playing that. Those controls are super hard to go back to. Super hard to go back to. If you've never played it, yeah, super hard to go back to. It's not even tank controls, not even the start of it. Like you look up with the right trigger, you look down with R2 button, R1 button, you move like on this grid-based realm, but you can look around in all 360, and it's crazy. it's still super fun. It's super mature, and you know, the stories are crazy. It's all LA noir detective case stuff, and just very Suda. You know, like you think you're on like a cop case investigating a murder, and all of a sudden a zombie shows up, and then there's a ghost, and like it just gets really crazy really fast. And then Kyle, I did finally play Nex Machina.
Ooh, so did I.
Oh, there you go.
I forgot about that.
And
it's amazing. It's pretty incredible. I don't even know how many levels I played. That's the interesting thing. I played it for like an hour, and at some point I got to the point where I kind of felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Because there's really no tutorial, right?
Nope, not really. And there's a lot of like secrets and hidden ways to do things that you just have to figure out as you play.
Okay. Because I was feeling that. I was like, I really think I need to look up some stuff on this guy. I was going to actually bring that to you guys because you guys are talking about board games. We'll get into this a little bit, but I'll just kind of bridge the gap here. That isn't for me. Like the whole, I'm going to discover everything on my own. Like I've never been that person. Like I like to know what's at my disposal. And I don't mean to say that I need the game to hold my hand, but like the way I play games, if I come across something, I don't feel like I'm 100% aware of what it does, what the strategy of using it and all that is for, like I'll stop playing and look it up. And like I started to get that way with Nex Machina. I was like, I need to like see a guide or something. I need to understand what these gauges are, what these means are. Like, and I saw the humans and the whole Resogun stuff was great, but then I saw some of them, I got lost, and some of them are like in different levels. And I don't know. I need to know all the details. So I don't feel comfortable.
The one thing I will say about Nex Machina that I think is a little different than maybe other games is that it doesn't not give you anything you need to finish the game. It's if you care about chasing high scores, then you're going to really have to figure out, how do I maximize? How do I find the secret areas? How do I get all of the human? How do I save all of those things? That's purely for high score chasing. If you're like, I just want to finish the game, none of that stuff matters for just finishing the game.
Even like the weapons. So like, I guess my L2 button could use these power ups that I was picking up, but I saw 2 or 3 of them and I couldn't figure out how to switch like back and forth. So I just started like, I was just hitting buttons at one point. Like,
yeah,
like,
once you only can carry one. So once you pick one up, it just replaces what you had previously.
Gotcha. So I don't know. There are symbols on the screen. I don't know what it means. And like that stuff bothers me. Like it really eats at me because I feel like I'm missing out. You know, I feel like something's wrong. I'm going to do something wrong.
Right. At least I think that's right. I played it, almost a year ago, but I think that's right.
It's really good. Beautiful. Crazy fun. I mean, it's really, really good.
Fast.
Yeah. It is Resogun, right? I mean, it's Resogun, Dead Nation, Alien Nation. It is all of that just in one. Super pretty. I love the jump. I love the camera panning. Like that's something we've never had in that space ever before. Or at least I've never played anything that's done. I'm sure somebody's probably done it. But I've never played anything like that in a twin stick shooter where it took you down, took you over the shoulder, took you behind, took you like looking from the ground up, jumping up to different platforms, like all of that camera panning had to take some work. And that's fun.
That really messed with my head the first time it went down to like floor level. And
you're like, what?
What is happening?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So I'm glad that you're playing Nex Machina finally. If you would have bought it a year ago, maybe, Housemarque would still be making these games. But that's fine. I don't blame you at all for that.
You need 150,000 other Donnies.
But I'm glad you're enjoying it now, at least. That's great. Since you were coming on the show, Donnie, I decided, hey, let's dust off that Switch and let's jump into some things that I have been looking forward to on the Switch, which I think are probably a little different than most of the PSVG crew. The things I've been playing, I downloaded and got Ikaruga, which is a old school shmup that has been around for quite some time. Again, a game that has like 3 total buttons that you use the entire time that you're playing it. Pretty simple premise. You are a ship, and your ship can either be white or black. When it is white, it shoots white bullets. It does double damage to black enemies, and it can absorb white bullets. But you'll be destroyed by black bullets instantly. If you switch it to black, same thing happens, just in reverse. You'll do double damage to white enemies, absorb black bullets, but instantly die when you're hit by a white bullet. And that's it. That's the entire game. And then it's just score chasing, high score chasing. And it's great. I really, really enjoy it. It's still, I had played it a little bit when it first came out, 20 years ago at this point almost. But I was never, that wasn't the style of game I was really into back then. And in, the last 10 years, I've really fallen in love with twin stick shooters and shmups and that genre of gaming and those general genres. And Ikaruga is something I'm definitely falling in love with. It's really hard. I'm not good at it at all right now, but it is something that I think this is a game I will continue to play in regularly when I dust off my Switch, kind of like Graceful Explosion Machine. It's a game that's always on there that sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is just what I'm in the mood for and I'm going to play. So if you've never played Ikaruga before and you like that style of game and you like shmups, I think that's a definite pickup. Another game that I got that I was really looking forward to was Just Shapes and Beats. Now, this game, I think this is the game that the title describes what the game is better than probably any game in history, just about. Because literally, you are a square, and there are beats that happen on the screen, and all you're trying to do is to avoid those beats. That's it. That's the entire game. You have a little dash mechanic, but you can literally move anywhere on the screen of the Switch, and you're just trying to avoid the beats as they come through. So they're obviously playing to a rhythm of music. So this is something where having your sound cranked on your Switch if you're playing it in handheld mode is important. But music comes in, sometimes it's going to fade in from the back, sometimes it's like bullets coming across, and they do it really in really interesting ways. They'll have like enemies that are created that are moving in time with the music. They'll have things fade into the screen. They'll have bullets flying through. So it's really like playing a shmup, but you can't shoot back. All you can do is avoid everything. And if you avoid everything, then you make it to the end of the level, and that's it. You move on to the next level. The music is excellent. How they are able to incorporate so many different ways of like bringing the music onto the screen is incredible. It is a really, really good game. I think it's one of those games that is probably going to be too simple to ever like make it on, you know, a top 5 or top 10 game of the year list. And I'm still pretty early in the game, but if I enjoy it as much as the end that I do now, this is a game I might still be talking about at the end of the year. That's how much I like this game.
What does it go for cost-wise?
I think it's $15.
Okay.
So it might be 20, but I think it's 15. But yeah, so that's Just Shapes and Beats on Switch. So again, another game that I really recommend. My only bummer is I don't have a headset that I use with my Switch, so I can't play this in bed because the music is really important. But other than that, if that's my complaint, I don't think it's too bad. And then the one thing I want to talk, I know Donnie has played this. I don't know if Josh has played this at all. I jumped into the Mario Tennis Aces beta tournament, whatever you want to call it, for this weekend. And I both am really impressed and really disappointed all at the same time. I think the game is pretty. It's pretty fun to play, but and I know this is a beta and they're probably just stress testing things. But for me, most of the games I played, the lag was ridiculous. Now, when I was playing earlier today, I should say, it was actually pretty good. I had very, very few lag issues compared to what I did earlier in the weekend. But earlier in the weekend, I got disconnected like 3 games in a row, where like I would start a game, just completely get disconnected. But I think it was really kind of disheartening that, you know, you're earning experience as you're playing this in these tournaments, and that's the only way to know like how much someone is playing. And I would be getting matched up with, you know, I'd have 100 experience and be going against people that have 1,500. And you know, and if you get a good game, you might earn 20 or 30 experience for a game. So these are people who've played hours of this compared to me, who's played like the tutorial in 1 match. So we jump into the game. I don't even know what's happening. I'm getting destroyed so bad. I'm like, I don't understand how any of this is working. And that combined with, I think, just the precision isn't quite there. There were many, many times, and maybe it was a leg situation, where I was like, hey, I feel like I just nailed the shot perfectly and it would be a body shot and it would hit me. Or like I felt like I was in the right place and it just wasn't quite there. So this is still a game that's on my radar. I'm interested in it still. I don't know, though, if this is going to be a game that maybe I play through the campaign and then just get rid of, just because I don't know how much the online component of it is going to be something I'm going to really want to play. I was really looking forward to this game. I'm a big fan of these odder sports games. Like I really like tennis games and I like snowboarding games and things like that. So I was really looking forward to this. And I just can't decide. And I think I'll probably still check it out, but I wasn't as impressed with this game as I was hoping to. In some ways, I think there's almost too much going on in it. There's too many types of shots, just a lot going on in those tournaments. But I guess also for creating depth of gameplay, it's probably important. Josh, did you play it in the demo at all?
I downloaded it. Did it end today?
Yeah, I think it ended. I
was gonna play it, but I kind of got caught up in all the chatter on Discord about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a game I was really excited for and might still be excited for. I think I didn't play it because I didn't want to be let down, if that makes sense. It's it's still something I want to get, and I want to get it to play with like the PSVG group. Like the campaign, sure, I'll play through, but I was a big fan of like the Virtua Tennis games. I used to play them with my brother all the time. But I think if I do get it, I'm gonna wait. I'll wait till after the Nintendo Online service rolls out, because I'm sure just like Xbox Live and PlayStation Network, there's gonna be a couple of rough months. And I would love for that to not be right, but maybe this is like a Christmas purchase. Once we know if the online community is up and running, and if people I know have the game and are playing it, it would be something I would get. But I don't want to get it just for campaign. For me, the biggest appeal is the online part. So from everything I've been hearing, I think I'm just going to wait a little bit and see where it goes and what we're looking at.
Donnie, what are your thoughts? I know you played some.
You know, it's strange, funny, and probably most democratic when a demo turns people off from a game. It's a weird thing, right? Because it's like they didn't have to do that, and if they didn't do it, maybe more people would buy the game. You know, I had this similar experience with Battlefront. I'm kind of in your boat. I was really excited when this game was announced, mainly because of the campaign mode. I'm much more of a single player video gamer, so that's like my first that's my first go-to. So when they said that was coming back, also like coming off like the Mario Golf hype, you know, like my Mario Golf love really goes back to those old games where they had RPG story campaigns, and then like online was like a thing I just did. I'm agreeing with you in the sense that this arcadey competitive fun thing is not for me. There is a lot of shots and a lot of, like, at one point I was holding the right trigger while moving the left thumbstick to the left and double tapping X. And I was like, this is not what I get into tennis games for. I find it a little upsetting that they didn't include the motion control scheme in the demo. It's just not there. And so that made me like pay more. Like I went and go dig more detail. I haven't been following with this game because I assume that I know what it is. It's a Mario Tennis game, very similar to the Wii U and GameCube versions and Wii versions, with a campaign mode finally for a long time. So like I feel like I knew what it was. It seems to me from reading about it that the motion control might be its own mode. And it may not. You may not be able to play that way online, or only play that way with other people online, and it may not have the power shots and trick shots online or in that mode. Like there's a lot of skepticism around that mode. Even like the IGNs of the world are like, we know it's here, we've seen it, but we weren't allowed to use it because it wasn't in the build. Like there seems like they're holding that back for some reason. And that's just a little concerning because that's kind of that's really my only interest. My only real interest is Wii Sports with Mario characters. Like anything above and beyond that, I'm kind of not there. Like I would totally just Wii Sports campaign up for a while, maybe play with my kids. And I would play with you guys online, but I would be the one flinging my Joy-Con around because I just think that's the fun way to play. I'm watching people online, and obviously this probably just goes to me not being very good. Because I'm watching people play. I'm watching the GIFs on my Twitter feed, and it is insane. They're hopping all over the stage. I mean, it's Smash-esque. You know, I'm like, how do they do? They're slowing down time, and they jump in the air and fireball down to the court. It's just not. It's not what I'm into. It's just not what I wanted in the game. It's not what I'm after. So for me, I canceled my pre-order. Not that I'll never get it. I actually think I will. It's just one of those. Having played the demo and having paid more attention to it, I'm now going. This game probably isn't for me, so I probably shouldn't adopt it day one. I should probably wait. And it might be a Black Friday eShop sale. It might be something like that down the road. Maybe a trade-in. Maybe it comes back down. There's just other things I think I could be spending my time playing. I could play that Donkey Kong, Rabbids DLC. I was going to buy Just Shapes and Beats because I have been looking forward to that one quite a while because my pre-order freed up some money because I had a gift card. And I was sitting there at the eShop, and I was looking between it and Celeste, and I voted Celeste.
Nice.
So I'm going to play Celeste finally and check that out. So I've got stuff to play, so I feel good pushing it off. It makes it easier not to adopt a day one when I see other people in PSVG doing the same. because even if I was going to play online, the folks that I would want to play with probably aren't going to be there. So
yeah. And I feel like that the online stability will get there. Obviously,
that'll get better.
You know,
Mario
Splatoon,
Kart's good. Splatoon, yeah,
exactly. So I'm not super worried about that. Like I said, I'm sure it's because it was a demo. It just, when you're playing a demo of that style of game, and it makes it hard to be like, oh, this was really fun, when I had no idea what was happening and what was going on there. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Similar to you, I think I'll get this game eventually. I just don't know when that is going to be. But I'm really glad that the people who are liking it are enjoying it a lot. That's great. The other frustration I had, and this comes down to my regular frustration I talk about on the show, with those, I don't know, the Joy-Cons frustrate me sometimes. There were many times when you have, like, if you flick or if you move the right stick, you have like this fade move that you can do to like get to balls that you could otherwise get to. And I would do it, and I'm like, that is not the direction I hit at all. And my character was going completely different directions from what I hit. I'm like, I don't know if it's like I'm flicking it and it's like reading the rebound of that as the direction I wanted to go, or what was going on. But I was like, that's not at all right to I wanted to go. But that's fine. You know, that's just me and Joy-Cons.
Did you find it behaving differently when you used a different controller?
I always play in handheld. So
yeah, you need a Pro controller, yes.
Oh, I have one, but I just never use it.
I am primarily a Joy-Con player at this point, and I primarily play on my TV. And
we'll see how that goes with Celeste for you.
Okay. No, I mean, I'm open. Yeah, I'm open to putting it in. That's never been really an issue for me. Did you ever put like thumb caps or anything on top of your sticks?
I haven't, no. And like I said, for most games, it's not a huge deal. It's not that precise as a control. And like I said, I thought for Celeste, I'm like, maybe I'm just way worse at this game than I think I am. But then other people have been like, no, it's definitely different when you play with a pro controller. So I actually did set it in my dock and actually played on with my Pro controller, and it was definitely different.
Noticeable.
Like, yeah, it was definitely different.
Wow.
So.
Okay. I'll put that through to test.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, that's all the games that we've been playing. But with Donnie here, we said, hey, you know what? Donnie's really been asking to come on the show. He's like, you guys do such a great job. You know, he was building this up, and he really wanted to come on the show. And he recently took a trip to MomoCon. And you may have seen all the awesome work he did there, all the video interviews that have been posted both on the YouTube and on the podcast stream. And while I know he's talked about MomoCon some on the PSVG flagship show, we wanted him to come on here and talk about his board game experience while he was at MomoCon. So, Donnie, talk to us about those board game experiences. Talk to us about MomoCon. What was it like for you venturing out to your first con?
It was great. It was crazy. It was great. We did a MomoCon wrap up for like all of the show floor indie games that I played and kind of my experiences, the folks I got to meet, the autographs, and kind of just behind the scenes working event as a press. MomoCon was an experience. It was definitely something. The board game portion was on the exhibit floor, but really close to the competitive gaming scene, which was interesting because there was always noise. There's always music and stuff going on. I don't know how the board gamers felt about that. And I didn't really, to be honest with you, I didn't really ask. They were really into their stuff. That's why. It's not, I would ask people playing games and stuff their feedback. And, I talked to the developers. I did talk to a couple board game developers on Josh's behalf, and another one that just caught my attention. And I'll get there in a minute. But the board games are cool. The whole board game checkout place, I tagged you guys in it. That I didn't expect that at all. Is that normal? Is that a common thing?
It is now.
Is that size normal? I mean, it was like 100 feet of board games,
yeah,
like 3 tables deep.
It depends on the convention you go to. Some of the big ones have thousands of games you can check out. And so what you said, what you were just saying kind of struck a nerve for me, because in a good way, as a memory, when PAX East first started, the first year of PAX in Boston, their gaming floor was huge, right? But they still had tabletop games there, but it was the same thing. It was PC games and board games, and it was very, very small. And it did have a place where you could check out board games, and there was probably 100 games you could check out, which is considered small for what is available now. But you were right. You hit it right on the head. It was very loud. There was a good amount of tables, but nothing compared to what you see now at board game conventions. So I'm interested. Maybe MomoCon's going to go with a PAX route and expand that in the future. But that kind of reminds me just how like PAX started out with tabletop games in that kind of situation. But I'll tweet some pictures or show you some pictures of some of the past recent conventions from last year. They used this inside of a stadium was full of checkout board game library.
That's okay. Yeah, that's crazy.
It was insane to see pictures of it.
Now when I say it was loud, that might be.
You mean for playing board games, like being able to talk to each other?
When I think about playing a board game, you'd think it'd be quiet, like in a panel hall or something like that, conference room. It definitely wasn't that. But what they had is they had a hall. So MomoCon exists in 2 halls of the Congress Center, and then the 2 floors above both of those halls. So it's like panels, game rooms, and then the exhibit floor is on the basement. And the exhibit floor rests in 2 halls. In one hall, there's the Smash tournament, the autograph line, the food area, and board games. It's like all tabletop open area. And then there's like a wall, and then the next hall, it's video games, indie games, manga, comic books, that type of stuff, all over there. They're in the hall with the competition and whatnot, but they're on the opposite sides of the hall. So it's not like super loud. You just know that stuff's going on over there. You know, you hear arcade noises and whatnot. But like if you're sitting at a table, you could totally talk to somebody across from you. That wasn't a problem. Hearing wasn't a problem. It's just, I don't know, it's something I noticed. I was like, I wonder if these people like this. But you know, they were way, way into it. They had several card tournaments. My son and I went and watched Pokemon cards, and sitting over somebody's shoulder while they're playing a Pokemon tournament in real time, they specifically don't like that. there's quite a few folks who are like looking at us like, would you please go away? And then there was also a Star Wars card game that we watched.
Yes, Destiny.
Destiny? Yeah. I'd never even knew something like that existed, and it looked really fun. It looked pretty cool. So we watched that, and that was cool because they had 6 tables dedicated to each. And when I say table, I mean like 6 rows of tables. Yeah. So it's probably 3 or 4 rows deep, probably 50 people a table. So in these tournaments, they're probably playing at least 100 players at a time in these card games, which is crazy. I did like that they had the board game checkout area right next to their food court, because that's exactly what my family did. Like we went and grabbed food, got dinner, we're sitting there. There is a tables of wall of board games just sitting there in front of you while you're eating. And they had somebody walking around like, hey, do you want to play a board game? You can check any of these out for nothing. You can rent these in the back. Like apparently they had very expensive board games that you could check out and play, but you had to like give them a deposit. It's like $50. They wouldn't let you like hold it unless you give them $50. And then everything else was like, you just handed over your ID, which I thought was interesting because apparently the $50 was like more valuable than your ID. You know, like I was like, this is weird. I'd rather give the $50 instead of my ID, but that was cool. Some of the games that I did play, my first like working day there, like when I went there to go do stuff, I went to sit down and eat. I'd been doing interviews, running around, I'd been moving. I just remember I was like, I've got to sit down, my feet are killing me. I grabbed some rice, I go to sit down, and I sit down at a table where these guys are playing Suburbia.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys played that game?
I haven't played it. I know of it though.
That looks like a really cool game. I don't know how to play it. I kind of got it. It's like city building, right? And everybody like gets these tiles. You get to like plug them on. The thing that I could not keep up with was how it was scored. They had like this other board where like sliders were being done. I was like, this is a bit much. And that really kind of gives me a lot of insight and awareness of just like how crazy some of these board games get. And there's like a little bit of desire for me to try something that's like so in depth. I saw some things that were like just I was like, no, never, no. But something like that seemed kind of cool. Like I would love, because like I played like Risk and Axis of Allies and stuff when I was little, you know, I had access to some board games like that. I would love to play those with my family. I just think the whole, you know, global domination aspect has no appeal to my wife or my kids, but I would love to get into something that, you know, we could play an entire week of, you know, like 7-10 days going, like we could have a board set up and it just always be playing and kind of come and go. Something like that has an appeal to me that I think would kind of create some memories for us. So outside of that, we played those. We played the giant Jenga games. So I want to talk about, really, I guess I've got 2 or 3 games I want to talk to you guys about. One of them is Zero Inbox. The other one is Gravity Warfare. The other one is Anchor, Kingdom of the Gods. And so let's talk about Zero Inbox first, if you don't mind.
Yes, let's do it.
Zero Inbox caught my attention almost instantly as soon as I came across it. 2 lovely people who I already forget their names, but they're all over our Twitter. We tweeted them all that. 2 lovely people sitting at a booth, and they were in the indie game showcase. So I'm playing these games. I just keep coming across it. And there weren't a whole lot of board games kind of in this area. So they're very, it was like a lot of eye candy. They have a game. It's called Zero Inbox. It's not out yet. It's like in beta production. Basically, they have a test demo for what they want it to be. And you can help them. You can sign up and you can beta it and you can download the materials and play it and give them feedback. They were very open to it. And I got to talk to them. What caught my appeal of this game is it's got a style. It's got a Google style that is just apparent, and it's very colorful. And I just remember seeing it. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but that's really cool. It looks cool. And Josh messaged me. Lena and the other guy she's with. And I've got an interview for them. Sadly, all the interviews that we pulled from the show floor, just the audio is just not very good. It's really loud and whatnot. So to fix it all up, it makes it sound really robot-y. We've got our best working on it. I don't know if we'll get to use them. I think it's Lena and Josh, if I can recall. I think his name's Josh. So anyway, what's more important is the game. So I'm walking by, I'm playing these indie games, and I run by. I remember on the first day I run by, and I'm like, that's really cool. We have a board game show. I want to come talk to you. And they're like, great. And I'm like, I'm busy right now, but I'm going to come back. And then the next day I came, they're like, you going to come play it? I was like, I got to get there. I got an 11 o'clock. I'll be back. And then I run back by. I'm like, I got 2 o'clock. I'll be back. So it was this constant back and forth with us over 2 days where I was like, I got to come play this game. I got to come play this game. Finally, I came to sit down with this game. And this game, all right, here's the elevator pitch for Zero Inbox. It's totally a board game about email. Which sounds terrible, right? And but when you see it, it kind of makes sense. So it's all kind of like this Office Space-esque mockumentary on working a day job. And what you do is you travel this Monopoly-like board around, and your goal is to get rid of your emails, to clear your inbox, to get away for the weekend. And the cards that you pick up along the way, as you land on spaces, you roll dice and you move, you land on spaces, you draw a card and you do things. The cards are just ridiculous. So they're all from these stories that these 2 have heard, through friends, through family, about email catastrophes. One guy that they were telling me the story, one guy was actually CC'd on an internal memo to fire him. So you read the email and it's like, hey, am I supposed to be on this email? And the boss replies, you were going to know sooner or later. So I guess this is the best. So there's funny quips and jokes along the way. And that's what they're working on, right? They're working on that, and they're working on images, symbology and stuff like that. But the idea of the game is that you get 4 adults around, maybe with an alcoholic beverage or 2, and you laugh and swap stories about these dumb emails that happen at work. And you get these action cards, you can crash the servers, and you can reply all and start passing off your messages to other players in the game. And it's just this funny play on words about just how monotonous and awful email can be at times. And it was neat. It didn't take that long to play. It's about 20 minutes. I started to get the hang of it on my first playthrough. I still don't understand how the game ends all that well. And they were telling me they're working on their instructions. So far, their instructions are only 2 pages deep, and that's their thing. They don't have any imagery on their cards. It's all text based. So they want to get that to more pictures and stuff, but they're still, like I said, they said it's beta. This is basically just an idea. It's just an idea of what they've got, and they want to see if it's worth something. I think it is. I got the concept. I guess that's probably the most important part, right? This game's not out. So I sat down in 5 minutes. I got it. I was like, this is a neat idea. You guys have something here. If you can put it into something that's polished, I would buy that game. I would buy it because it'd be funny.
It's great that they're doing it this way. At PAX, at least, there's a thing called Unpub, and it's for unpublished developers to sit in a room and play their game with not just people like us, but they specifically have times allotted to them in this conference room where like people who work for Asmodee and Z-Man can come in and also talk to these guys about developing a game for them, even if like everything isn't ironed out yet.
Yeah.
So even to hear that much is awesome because it sounds like they have a clear path on where they want to go, and letting people like you play it and tell them what you like and think could be improved I think that's great. It sounds like an awesome game.
My first reaction was, because I hear this almost weekly, I was like, my wife's a paralegal and she's got stories for you guys. Like, we've got to get you two together. We'll strike some names, we'll redact some stuff, but she's got some of the best email stories possible. And I think if they took it just a little bit more like adult humorish, if they just added a little bit more maturity to it, I think it could like really ratchet up and get them. I was telling about it because right now it's still very like office professional.
Yeah.
Right. And I was thinking like it'd be cool if you like threw some spam in here. You know, like somebody signed up for the wrong thing. Like you could really have some fun with it, right? I was like, that would be great. You know, like employee so-and-so has got something being delivered to his email, and something like that could really spice it. Just give it a little bit of kick.
Well, that's what they do. They get that target branding, do the after dark version as well. So they call it like the spam version or something like that. Yeah, that's a nail on the head.
Yeah, so that was my immediate thought, but it was pretty cool. Like, so you beat the game by getting rid of all of your cards. But I still don't understand how he did it. That's the thing. Like, even when the game ended, I was like, and walk me through that again. So like he had nothing but action cards, but he went around like the first time go. So he didn't have any emails in his hand, but he had cards in his hand. And I just didn't feel like I knew. And they didn't give me like an instruction really tutorial. So maybe it's just on me, but like, that was the thing. I still had like some confusion because I just kind of thought when you say get rid of all of the emails, I'm looking around the board planning for everybody to, like, if you have a card, you have an email.
Right.
You see, like I was like, if you've got like, I'm thinking get rid of all your cards. Right. It may not necessarily be, you could have action cards that aren't.
That's like the bluffing aspect of it.
Yeah. And I just don't think I got that part of it because I was holding on to like emails to like play them with action cards later, thinking that other people had emails.
Yeah.
So it's just like, maybe if I played it 5 times, maybe that would go away. But outside of that weird, my only personal take on it, it was a really enjoyable experience. They were really cool, like super friendly. They were telling me about Twin Cop and all these other, like the people around them that they were playing. I saw them playing games with people at all hours of the day over the weekend. I mean, really, they just kept going. They just kept playing round after round. I watched 2 people play the game, and they were telling me they had this great story where they had a girl come through and just crush them in a way that they'd never expected. So they have like action cards where you can forward emails to other people. You can server crash and get rid of cards. You can like send cards to like spam and whatnot. And apparently she made her way around the board. And right before she ended, she just played like 8 cards, like in one turn, and just bam, 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 and got rid of everything. And they were like,
nice.
We never accounted for anything like that, and it just kind of blew their minds. And that was a cool story.
Awesome.
That's why you play test.
That's right.
Definitely. The other game that I got a pretty good demo on was Anchor. You guys ever heard of this? Anchor, Kingdom of the Gods?
Is it Anker?
Yeah, Ankur.
Ankur. It sounds familiar, but is it a Kickstarter project or was it? Do you know? That
I don't know. The reason I went to their booth that I thought it would be cool for you guys to know was, 1, they had a really awesome setup, like an elaborate, like a cool looking table. But 2, they were up for like 8 awards, very like all these professional awards that I never heard of, but maybe you guys, I don't know them now, but like all of these game awards and like all these different shows and all these different stuff, like an actual thing. So apparently they were a pretty big deal. And it's a tabletop role-playing game, which I've never really seen anything of. Like, I've never seen anybody play games like this before. And it's got castles, and it's got figurines, and it's got like structures they play. It's got all this stuff on top of the table. And I was like, it's really cool. And I was tracking with the guy until he gave me the rule book, which looked like the collector's edition art guide for God of War. I mean, it was legit 2 inches thick. with all this artwork and all this mythos and all these rules, and like that was the rule book. Yeah. And I was just like, there's no way I can even. And he's telling me like, there's like you pick like a race, and then there's like job system, and it was like Skyrim on a board game. And that was really like kind of my only relation that I could have with it. It just blew my mind. It's like, how do people play games like this? Like, I mean, it just seemed like it would never end. It's like a different life or something like that. It's crazy. And then I'm sorry.
They're from Georgia.
Yes.
They had a successful Kickstarter 2 years ago. Chris Miller from Atlanta. And yeah, basically like these games aren't meant to end. They're like Dungeons and Dragons. Like they just meant to keep expanding books, and you play these games forever.
It's funny because I was like, oh, so it's like Dungeons and Dragons, and you could tell that like maybe that rubbed him the wrong way.
They don't like it, yeah.
He was like, yeah, if it was simple. It's like, excuse me. The last game that I checked out was called Gravity Warfare, which Josh had sent me to go look at. And it was funny because you sent me I took a picture of a cosplayer cosplaying as 2B, and just behind her just happened to be this Gravity Warfare poster. So Josh comments, and I go to look at it thinking it's totally going to be about 2B's outfit. And he's like, you've got to go see this board game in the background. I'm like, what? Where? I had to have him direct me back to the photo because it's like, where was the game at? And when I found them, they actually weren't there for like a day.
Aww.
So I didn't know if it was just like an advertisement.
Yeah.
And then one day I went to go walk past, and they were setting up. And It was a guy and his wife. And for the love of me, I should have found his name because I have an interview for him. Dan. His name is Dan, I think. And he is the guy that created the game. And he was there with his wife. And she was kind of like working the booth. He was playing the game, and she was the one telling everybody about it, handing out pamphlets. She was doing the work. So now I walked by the booth. I was like, hey, I want to talk to somebody about the game. She's like, absolutely. She goes, Dan, get over here. Stop playing the game. So it was like, that was a cool thing. They were very friendly, nice folks. They wanted, at the time I thought my audio was great, but like they wanted to set something up after hours. Like, we'll get out of here. We'll do it somewhere quiet. And I was like, nah, we're good. Josh, I don't know anything about this game. They told me how it works twice, and I still don't get it. That game blew my mind. It blew my son's mind. All right, it's a card game, but there's like gemstones, and then there's like figures, and then there's a board, but the board is suspended in air and it spins, and people are putting pieces on the board as it spins. I'm just like, I'm too dumb for this game. Like, this game is crazy. It's nuts.
I'm glad you checked it out. I was a backer of it on Kickstarter, and they kind of just pulled the rug out from underneath everyone, and they were like, we're canceling it. And we're going to come back bigger and better so that we can have 6 players, and we can do, and like, that's like unheard of on Kickstarter. People don't do that.
Turn away.
A lot of people just go for the money, which is fine because they want to get their game out.
Yeah.
But these guys were like, we talked to a lot of people. We want to make this more accessible. But just the images of this game alone, I've never seen a board game or any game like it ever.
I've never seen anything like it either. I
was immediately drawn to it.
It has a significant eye appeal. And I can tell you, they were near the autograph booth, kind of away from the board games. And there were several times I came by to get my interview, and I couldn't because they were busy. They were always playing. They always had people at their booth. And like, I think it has a lot to do with the way that the game looks. When you see them in mid game, you're just like, what the hell are they doing over there? Like, you can't help but see it because it's nuts when you see it move in real time. It's crazy style. Now, I will tell you, they have that independent spirit. I asked him about the Kickstarter thing, and I asked him about being seeking a publisher, both questions you gave me. And he automatically, he said kind of to both of them, he's like, we want to make the game that we want to make, and we want it to be awesome. We want people to see it, and we didn't feel like we were ready, and now we do. Nice. And it was a really good story. Apparently his dad came up with this game idea and they had played it back when they were kids. It's been like a family game for years.
Wow.
And it just dawned on him, like 10 years of playing this game, he was like, man, other people probably like this. And like the resurgence of board gaming, you know, I guess like proper, you know, he was like, people could be into this. And he was showing like pictures and describing like early demos of like what his dad made out of like cardboard and stuff. I was like, this is a neat story. I don't know. I still don't know how to play it. I still don't know exactly what it takes to win, but that is a crazy game, but cool people. So
awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's very, very rare because when that game went on Kickstarter, I am not somebody who usually backs a Kickstarter right away. I usually put the like, hey, remind me when there's 48 hours left in this, and then I'll look where my finances are and make the decision then. So I had done that for that game because I'm like, this just looks so cool. And then all of a sudden it was canceled. And I was like, oh, maybe they just did like, maybe they got no money, maybe nothing. And then I saw that they had raised like, you know, more than double what they were asking for, but canceled it anyway. And I was like, oh man, that's interesting. So I think June 20th is when the next one starts.
Yes, it's this month. I just don't remember the date.
Yeah, I think it's June 20th is when they're coming back to Kickstarter with their new and bigger project. So we'll see how that goes for them. Anything else about MomoCon you want to talk about, sir?
Not unless you guys have specific questions you want to ask. Especially not from the board gaming front. From the board gaming front, that's about everything I could get.
So I wanted to ask you, I think it was talked about in the Discord, but not necessarily for at least our listeners. For me, like my first time going to a convention was PAX East 2012. It was overwhelming to the extent of exhaustion on the third day. And I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to go back, but I did. But now, like with PAX Unplugged, I found a convention that kind of just has what I really want to focus on. So I want to ask you, what did you experience as your first con, and would you go back to one like it, or would you want to find a specific type of con, or you kind of like, con's not my thing?
We talk a little bit about this in our MomoCon wrap up, but this is kind of from a different angle. Working an event like as a press member, or at least my take on working an event as a press member, I don't know if I'd want to do again, because I tried to do a lot and I was always on the move, and there was a part of me feels like I just didn't have a lot of fun. I had some awesome moments, don't get me wrong. I got to meet Studio 51. It's a lifetime thing for me. I got to interview Troy Nolan, at least got to, like, I didn't get to meet them. I had to take a picture with them as they were kind of making their way out. That stuff was awesome, and there was a lot of work in between there and trying to do all the things. And I got 10 interviews from the show floor. I played every one of the indie game showcases, interviewed 10 of the guests that were there, and I only got to take like a panel. And it was funny because I wanted to take like 10 panels, and I wanted to play like 50 games, and I wanted to see the Smash tournament. There's like all this stuff I wanted to do I didn't get to do. And I just attributed it to trying, I had somewhere to be. I had somewhere to be almost every hour of the day. I had something to go do. So there was a lot of that. And that's not bad. It's just, I think with MomoCon, video games are such a small part of MomoCon, really. I mean, it's kind of the smallest part of MomoCon. The video games are, I don't know. Everything else is bigger. Cosplay's bigger. Panels are bigger. The competition in gaming is bigger. The comic book section's bigger. Apparel's bigger. Like everything is bigger than the gaming space. The gaming space probably like 13 booths, in this entire hall. 2 halls, in this entire 2 halls. Now they've got all these gaming related things like panels and whatnot on the sides, but like if you were there to play games that were there, like on a show floor to try stuff out and stuff, it's super small. So I could see going back to MomoCon year over year kind of feeling like diminishing returns, especially if you have people, because, there were a lot of people that are like, we were at MomoCon last year, and there are already a lot of people that have already committed to come back next year. So I could see something like that. I definitely think cons would be fun. I get that exhaustion feel. That might have just been with me trying to do everything I was doing. But also like everything that we did. So we dropped kind of what I would call we dropped like a major interview every day of the week. Then we did a wrap-up podcast, and I had all the pictures and all the tweets and the blog story, and I got all of that out in 5 days. Yeah. So it was like I did MomoCon Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, came home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, dropped a story, dropped a blog, dropped a podcast, and did all of it in a row. There's a part of me that's just like, I just want to play video games again. It's like at some point I want to get back to playing video games again and have fun and not trying to do all this, because there's, you feel like if you don't get it out, you'll get beat, or somebody else will get it out, and nobody will ever care about your coverage or anything like that. Yeah. So there's like a rush. But I mean, I think it's a hard question for me to answer holistically, because I haven't been to other cons. I can imagine if I went to like E3 or Gamescom, I'd be like right at home, because it's all my wheelhouse, right? I sit there on the show floor and just play games for hours and hours and hours and have a blast. And this isn't that. And I got to see things like board games and like Gravity Warfare, like Zero Inbox, that I never would have seen or paid attention to if I'd went to another event. There are several, like I bought comic books for the first time in my entire life. I've never bought a comic book before. I got to see some stuff like that. Cool little exhibit stuff. But I definitely don't know if I'd want to work the event again. Definitely not in the same way. Maybe a much smaller role, or maybe splitting it up amongst other people, stuff like that.
So you still get to go to your first con at some point as a person instead of as a guest, right?
Yeah. Okay. Because that was a funny thing, because I bought a ticket to go. I was just going to go. I was just going one day with my kids, and Kevin was like, "No, we're going to blow this all up. We'll send you there. We'll get you a press badge. You do all this work." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So yes, I still kind of feel like I didn't experience my first con. Like even the lines, like I bypassed the lines. I didn't, and I did that like illegally. I just, I have, I work for the building when they have special events on the public safety side. So I have a badge to get me to all the stairwells and everything I need to. And I've got friends and stuff. So, I didn't wait in lines. I didn't do any of the hard stuff. I didn't go through any of that. No, I was good. I get in and out, do whatever I want to go wherever I want to go. So yeah, it wasn't real con life.
Awesome. Well, hey, as we wrap up this supersized episode of Board with Video Games, we do have a few listener questions that are specific to Donnie. So we do want to cover these before we leave today. So first we have from Kevin Austin: if Donnie played board games, would he only get like one playthrough and then trade it in? Is that how that would work, Donnie? If you buy board games, would you just get rid of them after one play? You could do a math trade. You could do, you could possibly trade them with.
No, I bought One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and we still played that. We tried to break that out at the family get together, and the family wasn't really feeling it.
Gotcha.
I think the challenge with board games.
Yeah, I think we missed the mark on, because we the family think it's great. Like my kids and I, we play it with my wife, and we think it's great. We tried playing it with the grandparents, and they weren't really feeling it. So we kind of missed the mark on that one.
He does have a serious question though, and he says, "But seriously, what types of board games does he enjoy?" And then based on his response, he wants us to give you other suggestions. So when you're playing board games, Donnie, what board games do you enjoy?
So I don't have a whole lot of experience, like I owned Catan. I got it for my birthday and still haven't played it. It just sits there in the box. At some point I got to make time to play it. I play card games quite a bit with my kids. We're big Pokemon fans. So we've got, 18, 20 decks and booster packs and boxes and stuff around the house. My son and I really enjoy it. It's really kind of a me and him thing. There's a part of One Night Ultimate Werewolf that I really enjoy. I think like the whole bluffing, lying to everybody, that overcooked like type thing about the game is fun to do with family. So I think I'd be into anything that kind of resembles that. I definitely get the sense that there are some board games that they're hard to track on. Like just are hard to keep up with. And I think anything like that is an immediate no-go. Like if you've got to seriously reference the board, like the instructions while you play, we're probably not going to enjoy it. And honestly, the first time we played Mario Level Up, we were like, what are we doing? Like, why? Like, do we roll dice? Like we had so many questions. So like, I think something simple, which kind of makes it hard. I said earlier, like, I think I'd be interested if somebody was like, check out this board game where you get to, put these figures on a table and like make them battle or do something and have these castles or structures. That the setup, I think, is intriguing. Like, there's a part of that intrigues me. I'm like, man, I would love to just like put a bunch of money into something like that and set it up all over like the dining room table and have the entire family playing. It'd be really cool. But it would also have to be like, easy to get into and easy to explain. You know, it'd have to be like pretty simple, something I could convey in, 5 minutes or less, at worst, 5 minutes or less. Otherwise, everybody just kind of loses interest. So I don't know. With that said, I mean, what do you guys think are up my alley?
I have 2 recommendations right off the bat, and you already hinted at one. You talked about it earlier. When Ashley and I went to PAX Unplugged, we signed up for a teach and play, which they did a bunch of, but we did Star Wars Destiny. And it was $15. They gave us a starter pack, which is $20 normally, and they taught us how to play. If you're already playing Pokemon and it's something that maybe your son will get into, or even your daughter, it's not too different from the Pokemon game.
Okay.
As far as mechanisms go, but it also adds dice collection, which can be fun if you're into the collection thing.
Yeah.
And you have all these characters, and when you play the game, you have a certain amount of points that you can assign to heroes, and each hero has a cost. So you could pick I'm just going to be Palpatine and a Stormtrooper, and that's your full cost. And if you add more dice to the character, it increases their cost. Or you could be like, I'm going to have 6 main characters: Finn, Rey, Yoda, depending on their costs. And then you play you pick a battlefield from like the movies. You can also use TIE fighters, and you can use lightsabers, and it's all based on die rolls. And the cards have effects based on the dice you roll. Super cool, super fun, easy to learn. So like you could learn it and then easily teach it in that 5-minute window that hits that. And then to talk about bluffing, the game that immediately came to mind, I don't know if Kyle's already thinking of it, is Sheriff of Nottingham, which is an awesome Robin Hood style game, but you're playing the sheriff and people are trying to sneak contraband past you in these little baggies. And you'd be like, I put in an apple and a turkey into this bag, and you can choose to tax them and search their bag. And they could be sneaking contraband in there, like gold or whatever. And the point of the game.
As you're talking, I'm Amazoning. I have Arcane Wonders, Sheriff of Nottingham. And I've got Playmat board games. It's $14.94. Merry Men board games is $20, and then just Sheriff of Nottingham $34.03. Are they all the same thing? Are they have different versions?
All different. So if you're Amazoning it and you want to find Sheriff of Nottingham, I can tell you who makes it.
Arcane Wonders, isn't it?
It's
all of these say Arcane Wonders.
So the one you see, the Merry Men, that's an expansion.
Okay.
So the base one is the $34 one, but you can find it for cheaper than $34.
Okay.
Amazon isn't while we're on Amazon, they're not super competitive board game wise. They do have good sales every once in a while. But Sheriff of Nottingham's $24 on Miniature Market. And that's what you can expect to pay, $25. Very fun. It can be fun for the family to play because everyone gets to be the sheriff while you're playing the game. It passes on to players. So one person isn't just dominating I'm going to see if you're lying or not. And there's downsides. If you want to inspect someone's goods and they don't have contraband, the sheriff gets penalized. So there's reasons to not do it as well. And you have to declare what you're doing. So it also is like reading people's poker faces. It's a very fun game.
It is great. That was the one I was thinking of for sure. It is excellent. So one other question from super listener Splig.
Which is a very funny question.
This is, how does Donnie feel about Nintendo following board game trends and making people pay extra for pieces of cardboard?
Hey, man, you got to go where the money's at, right? If you got all these people out here on Kickstarter throwing thousands of dollars at cardboard games, got to get in on that racket. Got to cut you out a slice of that market.
That's right.
So I haven't listened to the Nintendo Shack E3 preview or predictions episode. But what I want to know is, do you think there will be another Labo presented at E3?
I made a prediction that whatever this Yoshi game is, comes with a Labo amiibo accessory toy something or another, because it's all cardboard paper based and whatnot.
Right.
And I was thinking something smaller, like the accessory kit or something that like you can like works with a Joy-Con, or you can scan it as an amiibo. Like I was thinking like maybe you build like a cardboard Yoshi or something like that. But that was kind of something I was thinking could be built into it. But I don't know. I don't know how well Labo is selling. I don't think it's like setting the world on fire sales wise. I think it moved units. I also don't think that that's necessarily a take on the game's impact to the market. Like I know for me, I was never going to buy the thing in April. To me, that was 100% Christmas presents. The moment I saw it, I was like, "Yep, totally going to buy that." Down the road, when I can put it under the Christmas tree, like it's a perfect Christmas gift. So I don't know. I don't know. I hope so. I think it's neat. It's a neat concept. They just got to find a way to find its space. They got to give it a utility that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Like VR, they gotta find a way to, once they implement Mario into Labo and Zelda into Labo, then it'll start to go.
Did you see the latest PlayStation E3 supposed leaks?
No.
BioShock VR.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that was the most recent leak. We'll see if that happens or not. So, okay. But hey, this has been a gangbuster of a show. Josh, I think we should wrap this up.
I think it is that time. Before we do our normal wrap up, we want to make sure everyone knows, not even next week, it's Sunday today, we're recording. You guys will get this on Thursday. But a week from today, we're in full court press E3 mode. PSVG, you're going to see so much coming out of PSVG. So Board with Video Games is going to be taking a break next week. So this might be your time to send in that fan fiction Kyle's dying to get. So take that Thursday time period you listen to us and just type something up and shoot it our way. But make sure you're listening. We're going to have so much content. Donnie and I are going to be, I think it's Donnie and I, will be live streaming the Xbox 2-hour maybe press conference. That should be exciting. And then I think we start with Xbox and we don't stop until E3's over. Conference after recap show. If you listened to PSVG last year, we take this very seriously. Everyone puts their best foot forward and we give you the best effort we can. So maybe I'll sneak in a couple board game references. Who knows? But we'll see. Otherwise, you guys know the drill. Thank you for joining us on this weird, wonderful video game adventure. I want to thank Donnie. Just like Kevin, Donnie has been a huge support beacon for us. He's been promoting us, and you guys heard he goes to conventions that happen to have board games at it, and he ends up getting us interviews and talking to people, and even gets to play some himself. So,
by the way, Lena, her companion, Dan, they all said they'd be happy to come on your guys' podcast. Just reach out to them, let them know you want to get them on. Yeah, they'd be happy to.
Yeah, we will certainly do that. Because if we're part of the indie podcast group, we want those indie board game groups on here too. This is where people start from. So I'm excited. But thank you. Honestly, I know that we gave you a hard time because we didn't have you on right away, and vice versa. But I think this was the perfect time to get you on, kind of get you into that. I know you do play Pokemon and you play some board games, but we're hoping via us and our fans that we get some more board game talk and have you back on down the line in the future, maybe around PAX Unplugged time. But I'll skip my plugs. You guys know where to find me. You can find us on Board with Video Games. That's BOARD with VG at gmail.com or on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we did get another submission for our Dice Tower contest. I'm not telling you how many we have, but it's still open. You guys get, I wouldn't say plenty of time, but you have some time. It's open to anyone who listens to this podcast. So please send in your predictions for the Dice Tower Board Game Awards, and you could win a board game. How sweet is that? You could win. Who knows what I'm going to send you? Some dirty socks, used copy of Machikoro. Who knows? But there'll be at least one new board game in there. That being said, Donnie, tell all of our listeners where they can find you.
I think I'm going to buy the Star Wars game, by the way.
Yeah, good.
You find me on Twitter.
Target. Before you go, Target has the 2-player starter set half off right now, $15 for 2-player.
Amazon's saying at 20. Okay.
Yeah, so check it out.
You can find me on Twitter at Play Nintendo, and you can follow all of us over there at PSVG and the blog, psvg.blog. I know a lot of folks don't ever come to our website, but all of our interviews are there. I just did this big MomoCon wrap-up show with Kevin, and I hope you all listen to it. I really do, because the amount of people that confused Suda51 with Wario 64 I thought was concerning. And it was very concerning. I had at least 10 people ask me what it was like to meet Wario 64 when I posted those pictures. So in that interview, or in that MomoCon wrap-up, probably one of my favorite pieces of audio that I think we've done at PSVG, Kevin and I just spent 20 minutes talking about Suda51. And I tell you, like, how I got to know him, like, through my cousins who were, like, way into Japanese stuff, and, you know, playing No More Heroes and Chainsaw Lollipop and thinking they're Lollipop Chainsaw and all that type of stuff. You know, Silver Case, and just all of what it was like to meet him. I got this great story when he autographed my Switch case that I think should put a smile on any video gamer's face. So definitely go listen to it. It's about midway through the episode.
But the whole episode is definitely worth the listen.
It is. I was thinking that earlier because I was like, man, I probably should put this in front, because you got to listen to me just talk about all of the indie games leading up to that point, which I know some people just may not want to hear me talk about Twin Cop. So
I've heard great things about Twin Cop, actually.
That's an interesting game, man. That's something that'll stick with you.
Awesome. Well, hey, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, and Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. Again, please don't miss us too much next week. We will definitely be missing all of you, but PSVG is going to be pumping out a ton of content for you to listen to. I'm dumb and am traveling for work, so I'm in like none of it, but I will be definitely listening to it as well. So please check out all the awesome stuff that comes out during E3 and chat with us, hang out, come over to our Discord, talk with us there, as I'm sure there's going to be a little something for just about everyone at this year's E3. As always, if you have suggestions for future topics, reach out to us on the social medias. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.